Check out our new sponsors, The Games Cube. It's a great family-run local game store boasting Australia's biggest selection of MTG singles. Use the coupon code The Eternal Gathering to get 5% off store-wide. Check their site out in the link below. G'day everyone, welcome to The Eternal Gathering. The Gathering here with our set review on our podcast today of the new set coming out in a couple of weeks' time here in Australia. It's been pushed back by a week, so I think the 23rd of April is when this will be released. But this is Strixhaven, and we're going to go through and look at basically the cards that I think we'll see play in Modern and Pioneer, and we'll go past those cards that I think we'll be seeing play, as well as some of the mythics. We'll just have a talk about them in general. Overall, the set, my impression is that it's not as powerful as previous sets have been. I think they've definitely dialed back on the power level here, and the mythics in particular are a bit underwhelming in my opinion. I think that they're more geared towards the commander crowd, and more of the playable cards are in the rare and uncommon / common slots. Of course, we've also got our not masterpieces, mystical archives as well. We'll discuss as well when we get to that a bit later in the podcast. So guys, like, share, and subscribe as always. We're going to be doing a giveaway when Strixhaven comes out, thanks to our sponsors at the Games Cube. We're going to be giving away one of each of the 5 colleges, a pre-release kit of their respective colleges. So you've got a chance of winning one of those 5 once Strixhaven comes out. There'll be more details closer towards the release date, and keep an eye out. Check our Facebook page if you haven't already gone to that, or check out the Games Cube Facebook page, and there'll be information there too. Alright, so let's get into the set proper. We got here our first 5 mythics, which are all the Elder Dragons. So, moving from left to right, we got Velomachus Lawhold, 5 red and white for 5/5 Vigilance Flying Haste. Haste is quite important in here, because whenever it attacks, you look at the top 7 cards of your library and may cast an instant or sorcery spell with mana value less than or equal to the power of Velomachus. And you can then play it without paying its mana cost. Put the rest of those cards that you revealed at the bottom of your library, or looked at the bottom of your library. So, interesting take on a Boros commander. This definitely won't see play, I think, in any of the formats that we're discussing in Pioneer and Modern. Basically, the cost is far too high, and there's no way to really reanimate it. And what are you going to be looking at? What kind of deck would have a lot of instants and sorceries that would fit in this kind of shell? Most of your instants and sorceries in red and white are already quite low on the mana curve. So, a definitely interesting take for a commander. Maybe you can play around its ability in commander and make a deck for it. I don't think it's quite going to be quite a strong commander, unless you're pumping up Velomachus with some spells, auras, or equipment, and then attacking in with it. But it's very mana heavy, and as we all know, red and white is very difficult to ramp in those colors in commander. Galazeth Prismari, 2 a blue and a red for a 3/4 flying dragon. When it enters the battlefield, you create a treasure token, so it gives you back a mana straight away. And then artifacts you control have tap to add 1 mana of any color, and then you can spend these only to cast instants or sorcery spells. So interesting again, making all your artifacts being able to tap for mana, very much like Urza from Modern Horizons. Urza can only tap for blue, whereas this can tap for any color. Urza does have its ability to play the top card of the library for 5 mana, which this one doesn't. But you can still play around with its ability in the commander kind of deck, if you make this your commander, or putting it in the 99. In terms of playability outside of commander, again, I don't see it being very competitively costed in terms of, even though it does give you back the mana, there's not much you can do with 1 mana in Pioneer. Modern, 4 mana, you don't think this would be strong enough to kind of be played in that format. It's not doing enough for you in there. Tanazi Quandrix, 3 green and a blue for a 4/4, flying and trample. So when it enters the battlefield, you double the number of plus counters on target creature control. So already it's quite restrictive that you need to have a creature on a battlefield with plus counters on it to get the ETB ability of Tanazi. It would have been better if it gave a plus counter and then doubled. That way you always would at least get some kind of trigger from Tanazi. But if you have no creatures on board or creatures on board without any plus counters on them, then you're not getting any real benefit from playing Tanazi Quandrix for the ETB. The other ability is when it attacks, you may have base power and toughness of other creatures' control become Tanazi's power and toughness. So you can make them vanilla a 4/4, so you can give everyone else to be a 4/4 creature. Obviously, if you pump up Tanazi, then the same thing will happen. All your creatures will be 5/5, 6/6s, whatever it might be, as a base power and toughness, and then whatever other buffs they might have, plus some plus counters or artifact equipments, whatever it might be, also on top of that. So again, nothing here competitively wise I see Tanazi seeing play in. Shadrix Silver Quill, 3 white and a black for a 2/5 flying double strike. At the beginning of combat on your turn, you may choose 2. Each mode must target a different player. So in a 2-player game, you're going to have yourself or an opponent, your opponent, get a 2/1 black and white flying creature token, or draw a card and lose life, or put a +1/+1 counter on each creature they control. Obviously, if you're playing 2-player, you're always going to just choose 1 and give it to yourself, unless you want your opponent to have, for whatever reason, them lose a life from drawing a card, or if they're having a creature, might be bad, giving them that, whatever it might be. But most of the time, you're pretty much 99% of the time doing something for yourself. Commander, this is a bit different. You can be a bit more political. You can give someone something in return for a favor. So I like it in the Commander sphere. But anyway, in any of the other formats, Modern Pioneer that we're talking about, it's just not going to be able to see play there. It's just the ability that you get for a 5 mana. Yes, you can get it on your turn before at the beginning of combat, but it's a 2/5 double striker, flying, 5 mana. 5 mana you can get a lot more in Modern, and even so in Pioneer you can do the same thing there. Beladros Witherbloom, 5 black and a green. So with this guy, we've got a 4/4 flyer that gives you a 1/1 black and green passive creature token. Whenever it dies, that you gain a life. That's on every upkeep. So your upkeep, your opponent's upkeep. So I like that ability. You then can pay 10 life to untap all lands you control and activate this only once each turn. So Commander, that's a really good ability to be able to pay 10 life to untap all lands. In a Modern or Pioneer format, 7 mana is quite big. You probably would not be playing this for the ability to get a 1/1 each turn, and also paying 10 life is quite a steep cost in a format where you start with 20 life. So again, do not see this seeing any play in those formats. Small mythics here, we got Hoffrey, Ghostforge. Spirits you control, get +++ and have haste and trample. Spirits aren't really a big thing in Boros colors, so I don't see it seeing play. And the other ability here really doesn't do much either for me. It's highly costed. You're going to have to play spirits. There's no spirits really that is red and white that you want to be playing. Magma Opus, 8 mana. You can also discard it to create a treasure token for 2 mana. It does a lot of things, but not enough to win you the game. And 8 mana again. What are you doing with the 8 mana? Just doing this in Modern or Pioneer? It's just not enough of a push for those formats to be doing anything. Body of Research, same thing here. 6 mana, 3 green, 3 blue to create a creature token that is equal to the amount of cards in your library. Easily removed, has no form protection. Again, not being able to do anything with that. Blot Out the Sky, same thing here, making tapped 2/1 white and black flying creature tokens. If it's 6 or more, destroy or non-creature, non-land permanents. Non-creature, non-land permanents. So you still have to keep the creatures on the battlefield. So again, not something that we'll see play. Exchange your graveyard and hand for 7 mana. Again, too high here. Very nice, maybe for Commander. Yes. But in terms of more competitive play, won't be seeing competitive play at all. Blex, Vexing Pest, same thing here. The other side doesn't do much either. No point in really going into it. Silverquill Silencer, interesting card, 3/2 for 2 mana. When it's battlefield, you choose a non-land card name, and whenever the opponent casts the spell with that name, they lose 3 life, and you draw a card. So not too bad, but again, it's got competition in Modern Humans. It's got competition in Deck Taxes already. You got Meddling Mage. You've got things that can look at your opponent's hand, take them away. So this still lets them cast that thing. Yes, they'll lose 3 life and you draw a card, but they're allowed to still cast whatever they want to cast. So it's still not something that I would definitely think right off the bat could see play. Yes, it has potential, but probably not in my opinion. Maybe Pioneer, it might be something that could see play in Pioneer, but Modern, I think there's better cards that do things very similar or better than this. Double Major, don't think it will see much play in competitive formats, neither will combination of studies. Radiant Scroll Wielder, interesting card, giving instant sorcery spells lifelink. And then at the beginning of upkeep, exile instant sorcery card around from your graveyard, you may cast it this turn. So you have to still pay for that instant sorcery. Good maybe card for Pioneer if you're going in late game in Boros kind of burn or white weenie kind of strategy. Otherwise, too slow I think for Modern. Blade Historian doesn't do much for me. Then does Elemental Expressionist. Manifestation Sage again also doesn't do much for me. Neither does Dramatic Finale. Demigod Titan is probably the best one out of these, as it lets you sacrifice a creature and that you can go to your advantage. Anything here missing, if you had Trample, it would be really good. Otherwise, it's just easily chump blocked in terms of what it brings to the battlefield. It brings a lot of things that you can do with it. You can reanimate it. It's 4 mana for 11/10. You can give it Trample with some other way, but it is a bit harder to get rid of at times. So potentially, I mean, that's probably the best card out of that cycle, but I still don't think it's enough to see play. Most of the MDFCs aren't that great, in my opinion. I think the best one we got here is Softless Glyph Weaver, but again, you've got Softless Spirit, which does a better job. It's 2 mana, 2/1 flying, has the ability to be sacrificed instead of exiled, so you can get it back. The Softless Spirit, that is, with Graveyard synergies. With this one, once you exile it, it's very difficult to get anything back from exile, so it gives you that one-off indestructibility, but again, not enough in my opinion. We've got the commands which we already spoke about in the previous podcast. We've got the Deans. I don't think there's much here in terms of what might see play for the Deans. Don't think there's much to talk about there. This one here, Venerable Warsinger, I think is quite a good card. Probably one of the better cards in this set. So 3 mana for a 3/3 Vigilance Trample, and when it deals combination to player, you may return target creature card with mana value X or less from your graveyard to the battlefield, where X is the amount of damage that this creature dealt to that player. So I'm thinking this can definitely be played in a couple of decks. So in Pioneer, you could probably play like a red white weenie kind of deck, with this being more of your top of your curve and being able to basically reanimate smaller creatures from your graveyard that have already been dealt with earlier in the game by your opponent. Another deck that I can see this team play in is Pioneer. I think if we can go red-white, you can kind of have like a bit of a storm deck in those colors, and this could be a good way to get some creatures back that might be relevant for that deck. Modern-wise, again, if you're playing this in Modern, more of a sideboard option. If you're playing against a lot of removal, a deck that, like Jund for example, you can bring this in to try and get your creatures back that have been killed earlier in the game. The rest of these cards I don't think can see play in competitive format. Maybe Vanishing Burst in Pioneer, but then again, there still are pretty good removal spells. Done lessons, I think we can talk about a bit of lessons. So there's an ability where you can learn, and learning allows you to get a lesson from outside the game, so your sideboard, or discard a card, draw a card. So I think lessons in general are quite weak. They're costed a bit too highly. I think they've been more safer after they probably learnt from the companions that things from the sideboard that you can get for free is quite good. So the abilities on them aren't the greatest. They're okay, but also the cost of those lessons are a little bit on the higher scale, probably 1 mana, 2 mana more than you would usually get for those abilities in other cards that obviously aren't lessons. So lessons I don't think we'll see play at all, in my opinion, in any of the formats. We go to a couple of uncommons and rares as well that I want to talk about as we go through here. There's a couple cards that I think people are really sleeping on. So we've got Fracture here, short target artifact, enchantment, or planeswalker for Orzhov colors in both Pioneer and possibly even Modern. This could be definitely a good sideboard option for Orzhov colored decks. People are really high on Ripapart. I don't see Ripapart being that great. It's sorcery speed, which hinders it, and also the ability to destroy artifact or enchantment or 3 damage to creature or planeswalker. Yeah, there's a lot of modes there, but really, if you're going into a deck with red and white, you already got some form of removal, so 3 damage isn't that relevant. And then you destroy artifact enchantment, you got already cards that fill that slot, that do it at instant speed. I would prefer Disenchant over Ripapart, in my opinion. There is a couple other cards that we want to talk about. Just scrolling down. The lands are obviously, we've seen that before with Shadows of Innistrad, so nothing really to go by there in terms of, obviously they are different color combinations, but nothing that we haven't seen before. Some of all of these mythics, these are all far too heavily costed. Mavinda's probably the better one here, being able to play in a Feather of the Redeemed deck in Pioneer. I can definitely see that being a card in there. Otherwise, I don't think it does much in Modern, and it doesn't really do much, if anything, in Commander. The Luca Planeswalker, I think Miller is really good. I think the ability to make all permanents you control have the ability that if they are targeted by a spell ability by an opponent, you may draw a card. So giving you some pseudo kind of protection there. And then also whenever they attack a Planeswalker, they get a +1/+1 counter. Oh no, sorry, +1 loyalty, sorry, to them. Luca, on the other hand, as we go into it, he is a bit high costed, 6 mana, to be able to return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield against haste and exile it, beginning of next upkeep, sorry. That's the best, definitely, ability on this Planeswalker. In Modern, 6 mana is too much. Pioneer, 6 mana might be okay, but what are we getting in Pioneer? Like Ulamog, Emrakul. I just don't see how we can make a deck that's gonna put those in a graveyard. That's red and white. I just don't see it happening. But Miller, I think, is a quite interesting card, especially for obviously Commander, but especially for if you are playing maybe the what's it called, the Fires of Invention decks. This might be a good ability to have in your sideboard to bring out Luca or Miller with your Granted. So that's something that I could definitely see it play in that regards. The other mythics here, whoops, sorry, going a bit too far. Rowan, Scholar of Sparks, along with Counterpart Will. Potential in a Pioneer for a Storm-like deck. Also potential for Modern Storm as well. The only thing with Rowan is the +1 doesn't do too much. Dealing 1 damage. If you draw 3 cards, dealing 3 damage. It's not really something that you're looking for in the Storm deck. Yes, the Instant Sorcery cost 1 less to cast is relevant. The -4, if you do get it, could be relevant. But 2 mana is quite a lot to copy a spell, even in Storm. So again, I'm not sure if that's going to be enough. Pioneer, you could maybe think about going red-blue for Storm, but I think Storm is probably going to be better in red-white in Pioneer, because we'll go through a couple cards that will help that, I guess, deck choice and deck color that I'm talking about in red-white as opposed to red-blue. Will, on the other hand, 5 mana, it's far too much for Modern. It doesn't give you too much unless you draw 2 cards for 5 mana, but you can do that already with other cards in Modern. In Pioneer, again, if there is a red-blue Storm deck, I don't see it at the moment, the pieces there, but there definitely could be the pieces. You've got Baral, you've got Goblin Electromancer as well in Pioneer that you could use to do some Storm stuff, but I don't see what the payoff is at the moment. But let's go into some of these cards here. This is what I want to talk about. So Leonard Lightscribe. So 1 and a white for a 2/2, and whenever you cast it, copy instant or sorcery spell, creature control get +1/+1 turn to turn. So this is one of the reasons why I think Boros Storm deck in Pioneer might be worthwhile. If you bring this out and you start playing spell after spell, you're pumping up your team, and most of the spells you can make your opponent's creatures not be able to block. So you can definitely deal a lot of damage with Leonard Lightscribe on the battlefield and a couple other creatures on the battlefield as well, and attack in with that, give it haste or whatever it might be as well. So definitely something to keep an eye on is probably a red-white Storm-like kind of deck that uses creatures more as a way of finishing the game as opposed to a spell that has Storm, I guess, like in the original Modern deck that you got your Grape Shot or whatnot to finish off your opponent. In this way, you'll finish off your opponent by attacking in with creatures that have got a lot of +1/+1 synergy, because you would have your Monastery Swift Spear in turn 1, you can play this turn 2, and then turn 3 you can go off if you have a Burgie, turn 4, play a Burgie turn 3, and then go off on turn 4 by drawing cards, playing spells, pumping up your team as you go, give your Burgie haste, attack in, make the creatures on your opponent's side of the board not be able to block. There's a lot of cards that do that for 1 mana and let you draw a card at the same time, so you're fielding yourself and you're being able to do that, attacking in with Leonard Lightscribe and those creatures as well. Battlefield Mastery is my pick of probably the most impactful card in this set. I think this is probably the best card in the set for the competitive format. 3 and a black for instant speed, very relevant, instant speed, to exile target creature or planeswalker. Then you can also pay 1 and a black instead of 3 and a black, so 2 mana, to do the same thing, exile a creature or planeswalker, but your opponent will draw a card. I think this card is pretty good, because if you think about it in the scenario where in Modern or Pioneer, 2 mana to exile a creature or planeswalker, that's problematic. Yes, you give your opponent a card, but it's a random card from the deck. It's not like a huge setback. You're definitely getting rid of a card that you know is problematic, which is the creature or planeswalker that you're trying to exile. Later in the game, if you have the 4 mana, you pay the 4 mana. You exile a target creature or planeswalker. And exiling is really important, because there's a lot of ways to get stuff out of the graveyard in both Modern and Pioneer. And to be able to exile for such a low cost of 2 mana and able to give your opponent a card, yes, that is a drawback. Yes, I get that. But I think that drawback is definitely something that I would be willing to give my opponent if I know, for example, they're playing a Liliana Last Hope, and I've got no way to get rid of it. They've already got too many creatures on board. I can get rid of it with this Baleful Mastery. It's a speed. Exile it for good. If they got a creature that's just too hard to kill otherwise with my creatures, it's more than 3 mana. I can't Fatal Push it. I can't use Blood Chief's Thirst, exiling it altogether. So again, I think this card is probably one of the, if not the best card in the set, just because it gives that flexibility to pay 4 or 2 and to be early in the game to get rid of something if you really need to, or not if you can wait till you get 4 mana. You get no drawbacks, and it's a speed. It's a speed is quite important, I think, to have on this card. If this was Sorcery Speed, I wouldn't be so high on it, but Instant Speed really pushes it. Strict Proctor, another good card here. Being able to, when anything enters the battlefield and causes an ability to trigger, you don't have to pay 2 to let that trigger. So a good card for sideboard option in Modern, definitely against Valakuts. You can play this in the Spirits deck, or you can play this in any deck that doesn't run white as a sideboard option. A very good option there for those against those decks in particular. Archmage Emeritus, a really good card again for Storm. If you're going into Pioneer, this could be a reason why Storm should be blue-red. In Modern, another way of drawing a lot of cards. If you want to set it up a bit more, go a bit longer game, it could be a good sideboard option as well. If you think that your opponents are gonna, get rid of your graveyard, for example. This way you can search for the answer to stop your opponents from soft locking you out of the game. Conspiracy Theorist, another card that I think could see some potential in Pioneer in particular. Whenever you discard a card, you may exile it you may exile it and you may cast it. So you may cast it that turn. So I'm thinking again in that red-white Storm deck, it has Burgie, which flips over to the Horn or whatever it is, and it lets you discard a card to then exile 2 cards that you can play that turn. So when you discard that card and you have Conspiracy Theorist out in battlefield, you're going to be able to play that card. So you really, when you discard a card, you're drawing 3 cards. So for me, I think that's a really powerful effect, and I think definitely could be a mainboard or sideboard option for a red or red-white Storm-like deck in Pioneer. As we go through, there is a couple other cards. Elite Spellbinder, 3 mana for 3/1 flying. When it enters battlefield, look at target opponent's hand. You may exile a non-land card from it. For as long as it's exiled, they have to pay 2 more to cast it. Death and Taxes in Modern, I think, could play this as an option. If you bar this in at the draw step of your opponent after they've drawn, you can look at what they're going to be able to play and take away that play that they might have done on that subsequent turn, and pushed it for a couple of turns, we're going to have to pay the extra 2 mana. I think it definitely could be a good option in Death and Taxes. Whether that's Mabel or Sideboard, I don't know, but it definitely is something that will need to be tested in that deck. I would go through to Clever Luminancer. And Test of Talents, actually. Let's do Test of Talents first. So counter target instant sorcery spell, and then search your opponent's or controller's graveyard, hand, library, any number of those cards with the same name, and then exile them. So it is basically counters an instant sorcery, and then surgical extraction that card from the game. I think a really good card, a really good sideboard piece for your control decks in Modern and in Pioneer, for anything that obviously you want to get rid of. That's instant sorcery. For combo decks, for example, you get rid of their combo piece by countering it and getting rid of all the other pieces, or out of the card that is obviously a piece for their combo out of the game. So definitely a card to see play in Modern and possibly Pioneer as well. Clever Luminancer, again, another reason why to go to white for your Storm-like decks. Being able to get +2/+2 whenever you cast instant sorcery, so it gives you double prowess basically, and it's a 1-drop, another 1-drop as well for that deck, and a payoff for you storming off. I think that is probably pretty much the cards that I wanted to discuss that I think could definitely see play in Modern or Pioneer from this set. So now we'll go and look at the mystical archives. We got Hasmina, Axios. I don't see any play, really, in my opinion, or neither any of these artifacts. They're just not good enough. The mystical archives. So what we got here with the mystical archives, I want to go through what I predicted to be in the mystical archives and see how well I did. Spoiler, it was not very good. So basically, in a couple of podcasts ago, I think I did I guess, predictions of sorts for what would be in the mystical archives. I predicted 5 cards, and I think I got 1 right. So I predicted Force of Negation, which I think would have been an amazing card at Mythic for as a mystical archive. Cryptic Command, I'm very, very shocked that it's not in this set. I thought for sure it'd be there. Remand, Remand was one of the time-shifted cards. Ponder, also one of the time-shifted cards, so not in mystical archive either. Lightning Bolt. Lightning Bolt was the only one that I predicted that did get a printing in the mystical archives. But let's go and look through the mystical archives, because I think they're really beautiful, the art. The Japanese art looks beautiful as well. And I think they did pick some really nice cards. They also picked some duds. They always do. But they've got some really nice picks here. Eliminate sees play in Pioneer. Tainted Pack sees play in Commander. Tezzer's Gambit doesn't see play really, apart from Commander. Great Shot, great Modern card. Divine Gambit doesn't see play, I'm sorry. Natural Order, again, Commander only. Agonizing Remorse, doesn't really see play. God's Willing sees a little bit of play in Pioneer. Regrowth sees a little bit of play in Commander. Mystic's Mastery sees play in Commander. Increasing Vengeance sees some play in Commander. Lightning Helix, Modern card, really nice pick there. Very beautiful art. Compulsive Research, Commander. Famous Looting, really nice card if it was still Modern. The art, I think the art's cool. I like the art. The art was something that was a talking point when it first came out. People thought it was a bit of a joke as to the actual art, and I didn't think it was real, but it is the real art, and I think it's quite interesting. I think they've picked really different kind of art styles here, and I think they look beautiful. Would I want it for every single set? No, I like that it's a special kind of thing that they've done, but I'm not too fussed about them going out and trying different arts. Yes, maybe people didn't like it. Okay, they might not use it again, but at least there's this art here for this one time, and if people appreciate it, like myself, for example, we got that art there. Gift of the States, a dud card, I'm sorry. Doomblade, another kind of Danish card. So many cards that are so much better than this that are out already. Dig Spark, might see some play in Pioneer. Vicious Impulse, same thing here. Negate, a nice sideboard option card in most formats. Chaos Warp, a commander card. Snowrain, modern card there. Tendrils of Agony, doesn't see play in modern, but does see play, I think, in Legacy Storm decks, if I'm not mistaken. Or obviously could be played in a commander if you are playing that. Clear the Firstborn, that's a Pioneer card, yes. Modern Type, interesting choice. Can be sees play in modern. Pressure the Second Son definitely sees play in Pioneer. Infuriate doesn't see play anywhere. Primal Command sees play in Commander and Modern as well at times. Throw a possibility, does see a bit of Pioneer play. Electrolyze doesn't see any play really anymore. Revitalize also doesn't see play. Crux of Fate, good card for Commander. Memory Lapse, a nice card for Commander. Brainstorm, a good card for Legacy obviously. Commander, Teferi's Complexion, Commander again. Day Judgment, good card again for Commander. Modern, I think you probably play other Rafts that deal with regeneration as an upside. Sorry. Putrefy, a good Commander card again. Harmonize, again another good Commander card. The art again similar to Fateful Sleeting. I like the Fateful Sleeting one better than this one. Ephemerate sees play in Modern. Bruce on Setup sees play in Commander. Channel doesn't play anywhere, I think. I think it's banned pretty much everywhere. Defiant Strike, might see some play in Pioneer. Miser, another card for Commander. Village might see as a little bit of play here and there. Worldwide Denial, I guess it's a card in Pioneer. Izzet Kozilek, my pick for probably one of the, if not probably the most expensive rare from this set. Very good choice. Sees a lot of modern play. Dark Ritual sees Commander play, Legacy play, Cultivate, Commander, Ghost Battle, a good card again for modern, Pioneer. Weather the Storm, a card for sideboards against Storm itself. Sign Blood sees play in Commander. Shock sees play in Pioneer. Counterspell, Commander again. There's been some rumors. If you don't like rumors or leaks or anything like that, then don't listen. But I'm going to be talking about Modern Horizons 2, and there have been some rumors that Counterspell will be one of the reprinted cards in there, as well as Price of Progress. I heard Chain Lightning. I also heard Sectum Prelate being a card as well. What was it? There's a couple. Animatu coming back with a madness cost to play it only. You can't play it otherwise. Some suspend cards, and also a planeswalker that also is a 1/1 creature at all times. So that's the leaks or speculation. Nothing confirmed, of course, but if confirmed, Counterspell in Modern will definitely see a lot of play. Crazy Grip, I think a great sideboard option in Modern with a split second being able to not be countered. Is really important, especially if you're playing against things like Chalice of the Void. If they got Chalice for 3 and you play Crazy Grip, it negates the Chalice trigger straight away. Snakeskin Veil, not as good as Summer Autumn Veil, whatever it's called. Urza's Rage, a really dud card there. Abundant Harvest coming out in Modern Horizons 2, I don't think it's a great card. Time Warp, a good card for modern turns or for Commander. Strategic Planning, sees play Pioneer. Lightning Bolt, Modern. Duress, good Pioneer. Demonic Shooter, definitely the best card here for Commander, along with Teferi's Protection in the Mythic slot. Opt sees play everywhere, and Swords to Plowshares sees some play in Commander. So definitely some really nice choices there. Definitely some good cards for different formats, but there are some duds. And the Japanese art looks amazing. The only thing, personally, for me, I don't like to have foreign languages in my decks. The art though looks amazing, so I'm not sure if I might change my perspective on that. I'll have to see these cards in person and probably own a couple of these. But if they definitely had English text on them, I would have them 100% in my decks. At the moment, I'm a bit on the fence as to whether or not I would play these in my deck, just because I just don't personally like the foreign language aspect in my decks. Nothing against the card itself, but that's just my personal preference. But the art looks amazing, and it's all borderless as well. It looks stunning, stunning. I love how they do this. I know they're trying to, grab the Japanese market. I think my opinion is that boat's kind of sailed. I think having these specific arts is cool, but I think they could probably put the resources into other things, like trying to get Arena going with Piney quicker, and supporting that a bit more, or supporting Magic going online. Also looking at the quality of their cards as well. But nonetheless, it's something there. It's something that you don't necessarily need, but it's cool to have these cards available. Alright, so that is our preview of the new set. Don't forget, we do have a giveaway coming out for Strixhaven, so keep an eye out. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel as well. That's it. That's all for today's podcast. Thanks, guys, for listening. As always, everything on the stack has resolved, and good games, everyone.